perishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. From the time that I was young, I've always loved to run. Now, depending on my current knee situation, I can't run. I haven't run in actually a long time. My kids have actually never seen me run, but I used to love to run. That was part of my punishment too, kind of growing up. So when I was a little too rambunctious in the house, my mom made me go out and run laps around the yard, until she could try to wear me out. But there was just something about it. I loved it. Every time I got out to recess, I wanted to run. I wanted to race. There was never a competitive race that I would say no to. And it wasn't just that I loved to run, I was actually pretty good at it. And every recess at school, we'd go out and we'd race and I'd win. And I can remember one specific time we had a major, we called it OO Voto. And it was the last day of school, it was kind of a field day, and it stood for our own version of the Olympics. And we had a 50-yard dash, and I was so excited to get in the 50-yard dash. And all the previous years I would run, and my feet would get so fast and far out in front of me, and I'd always fall. And I was always like, this is my race. I own this race. And I remember finally in 5th grade, got out there, I ran, I ended up winning. And I'm walking back in, and Mrs. Jennings, the 5th grade science teacher, came up to me. Now, if you knew anything about Miss Jennings was the classic science teacher. Like, none of her clothes matched. They were all outdated by about 30 years, and she wore glasses that were totally out of style. But everybody loved her, and she was a phenomenal teacher. And Miss Jennings came up to me and said, Lee, as you get ready to go to middle school, you really should think about going out for cross country and track. And I thought, that's great. Yeah, somebody recognized my gifts, and here I was getting ready to go out and do that. And I thought, I was God's greatest gift to the cross country team. And I remember stepping out there as a 6th grader, excited, my first day of practice, and we lined up to run, and the coach was like, okay, I want you guys, you're gonna go out and run 2.5 miles, and then we're gonna start the practice. And my eyes went like this, and I realized really quick, I was totally out of my league. These guys blew the doors off of me. And I had a choice to make at that point. I can just kind of go about running as though I want to run and think I'm all that, or I can begin to discipline myself and become all that I possibly can when it comes to running. Part of that perspective is true when it comes to our own discipleship process. But Paul is likening discipleship here to running a race. How are we going to follow Jesus? Are we going to just run around acting like, I've run a little bit, think we're better than we are, and honestly, if somebody out there actually knew what they were doing, looked at us, it looked like we were running aimlessly. Looks like we're boxing the air. We don't have good form. We don't look like we know what we're doing. Looks like we're actually hurting ourselves when we run. Or we have the opportunity to actually take time to actually train. Learn what it means to run. Learn what it means to compete. To discipline our bodies, to discipline our minds, to be all that God has actually called us to be in this. What would it look like for each and every one of us to approach the race of discipleship that way? What ground could we take for the kingdom? How many lives could be impacted? Tonight we're going to talk specifically kind of about our pathway towards discipleship. And I've asked Micah to actually come up and guide us through this conversation. Micah is a systems guy, and he's much better at the systems of things than I am. And because this is kind of a systematic conversation, I've asked Micah to come up and kind of guide us through this process. So thanks, Micah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take a step back because I was told sound could be bad news if I'm on that side of the TV there. So we'll step back. I'm not afraid of you all, just afraid of the microphone. So I like to run. I tell people I run to not go crazy and not get fat. I was never competitive, but as I've started to get a little older, I realized I can't do the things that I did when I was a little bit younger in the way that I eat and don't exercise and expect to feel healthy. So we had a chance, our family actually, this past week to go on a vacation that there was no running involved. We just hung out on a beach and at a water park, and did a lot of sitting around. It was beautiful. We're new to the area, so we came from Arizona here to Florida, so we're learning like where are the trips that you can go to places here. And this was a place called Destin, Florida. Anybody know where that is? So white sandy beaches. That's just a novelty thing to us. We just got a kick out of seeing some of that. But it was interesting. It stood out to me a little bit. This beautiful white sandy beach, this time that we had, we were hanging out with friends, and that at the end of the time, I honestly felt a little bit kind of worn out. And I was trying to decide, how do I feel worn out? Like we haven't done anything. I haven't worked. I haven't run. I haven't done any of those things. And we were at this beautiful destination location of this white sandy beach. And I had this picture of the only other place like that I had in mind that had that kind of white sand and like blue water when you'd first walk in was a chance when I was in high school and we were in the Dominican Republic. And so they were very similar looking destinations. The sand that reminded me very much of that spot. But my reason for being in the Dominican Republic was totally different than our reason for being in Destin, Florida. Because in the Dominican Republic, we were there to serve people, to share the gospel. And I was part of a missions trip, and our whole purpose for being there was to give back to other people. And we had this one day, really like a half day, where we hung out at the beach and just kind of blew off steam. And for whatever reason, those two pictures clicked in my mind. Very similar locations, but totally different purposes for being there. And one of them, if I'm honest, I left feeling more refreshed, engaged, and fired up after having poured out for other people than I did on the vacation, where I kind of got in a selfish mindset, honestly, because it was for me. This is my time, and the kids were interrupting some of my time, and this destination matters. And so we're going to look at this picture Lee referenced last week with these 4 E's. You'll hear our heart if you haven't already caught that in Lee. We're going to talk about the system of this discipleship, but this system, this is totally biased, lopsided, and our hope for this church, for you guys, toward an outward focus. And so we're going to put this in language for you, but throughout this, I hope you'll pick up, this is for you, for others. Okay, that's why the mission statement is not just helping people know and follow Jesus, but it's that we're people helping people. Like you are the people. That's not my job or Lee's job, but you guys are the people helping people know and follow Jesus. All right? So this is our hope for you as you're in that outward focused life, that it would be similarly rewarding for you, that you would pour yourself out, but you'd feel refreshed because of it. So this picture Lee mentioned before starts at the top with the word engaged. Engaged. We want you first of all to be engaged in a relationship with Jesus. So you have to start somewhere on the journey, but that journey has to start with a point where you've said yes to following Jesus. Now you're here at a core team like part of a church plant. Probably that's happened for all of you. Like that it'd be abnormal to be here and still kind of wrestling with, I don't know if I'm committed to following Jesus, but I'll help the church get started. If that is you, I'm so glad you're here. Let us know. Let's be part of this journey. But probably you've all hit that point. Ryan, if you jump down a slide, engaged, there's some phrases that helps you understand what that should and could look like for you. That we want you in being engaged, to be engaged with Jesus personally and corporately. In other words, like personally, in your own time, in the Word, when Lee has referenced those 4 to follow, that we want you to own your own faith journey. There's a piece of this where in your own time, throughout the week, you should be finding time that you're spending reading the Word, that you're praying and engaging with Jesus in your own life, in your own rhythms. But we also want you to be engaged corporately. And by corporately, I mean like what we're doing here, together. That there's something powerful that happens when we gather together, to worship together, to hear the Word preached together. So we want you to be engaged in your own time, and also to be part of this coming together to worship corporately. And this is our hope. As we go through this, I want you to share this in kind of you language, but we'll give you some hooks to why we'll do what we'll do as a church. So where does this take place? For Harvest as we launch, where are we most effective? Where are we going to be focusing most of our attention in helping people become engaged with Jesus? And a key piece for that is going to be the Sunday morning or the weekend worship experience. We will put a lot of effort and energy in what we do when we gather together corporately, because there's something powerful that happens when people come together. When in a setting like this, the gospel is preached as we're gathered together, that for some people, maybe some of you here, you had some encounters with understanding who Jesus was. People shared that knowledge with you, but nothing clicked until you were in a place where for whatever reason, it was at a church. Maybe it was a church you grew up at as a kid or a high schooler. But there's something powerful in us gathering together where the gospel is preached, where people say yes to Jesus, and that commitment, that engagement starts. So we're going to put a lot of effort into that. As we go full circle, I want you to hold that thought, because you're going to see the second key way that's going to happen at the end of this process, because this is really, it's a cycle that we go through. We want you to be engaged. That second piece is to be established. So it's not enough for us to just help you meet Jesus and to start a journey with him. We want you to know him. That knowledge is something we want to go somewhere, to grow deeper. That you would not just know about Jesus and some facts, but you'd experience him personally. And one of the keys that we know for that to take place, if you're anything like most of us, is we're not really good at figuring all that out on our own, but we need other people in our lives to help us in that journey of becoming established in the faith, right? So we want you to not just know the truthful statements about what we believe as Christians, but that you own it because you've experienced it and you're walking that out in your own life. But if you're anything like me, we have great blinders about the things that we're bad at, or the areas that we can get stuck in. How many of you, at like a New Year's time of year, have made a commitment to join a gym? Anybody? Like, it's a January commitment, all right? I made a commitment years ago just never to make New Year's commitments. Like, we'll do that in the life of things, but like that specifically New Year's resolution, I'm just going to resolve I will do annual things at a slightly different time of the year. It's just something, whatever, it was weird to me. So, people that go to gyms tell me, again, I run to not grow fat, it's free other than cheese. The people that tell me, right, you go to a gym in January, there's a lot of competition, I'll hear this from Lee, he's a gym going guy. In March, are all those people still there? No, right, because one of the things that I think is lacking is individuals signed up for a gym membership. Now, there's something different in accountability in our lives. We notice that physically. I have an app on my watch. I have two running apps on my watch. One of them works really well. The other one's kind of clunky. But the one that works really well, that is an individual thing for me. The one that's kind of clunky, I have some friends from my old small group that they give me kudos. Anybody have Strava as a workout app? Okay, so when I use the not as good version of the app, I get kudos from my friends. Like, they acknowledge that I went on a run. I honestly like the other one better. But I stopped using it because I like the accountability. I get a follow-up every now and then if I don't have any runs and have posted like, hey, you're still running. I need accountability in that own journey. We need that spiritually in our lives. The things that God has called us to do as followers of Jesus, as parents, as leaders, are too important to just leave up to whether we get it figured out on our own. So we want you to be established. Where that's going to take place, it starts on the weekend experience. Like, as Lee's preaching, as we're sharing the word together, the truths that we're building our lives upon there start there. But if we just leave you sitting in rows and we don't get you applying it together, if we don't, so to speak, get you with a Strava app where there's people that check in on you and notice whether or not you're applying those things and ask you questions and that you can ask for a prayer from and have support, and when you hit those crises in life that come up, that you've got people you can call and run ideas by and be part of your life. If you don't have that, you're going to get stuck. And so we want you to be in community. And so the key way for us as a church that we're going to develop that is through our small group systems. And so we want, for everybody that would call Harvest Homes, that we want you to have a place to belong. But part of that isn't just that you feel accepted here on a Sunday morning, but that you would have other people that know you well enough to really accept you. You know, because there's one thing to feel like welcomed but not known. If we're honest, it's nice, but it's kind of shallow, right? Like, you don't really know me. I'm glad that you like that I'm here and that you smile at me and greet me, and that matters, okay? But there's something much more profound when people really know us and our imperfections, and they still accept us. We want you to have that kind of belonging and growth. So for you to be established, it's critical for us in our mind that you be in community, that you're applying what we're talking about together. And so even before the church launches here over the next couple months, we're going to be inviting you to sign up for a small group. And some of you as leaders have already expressed an interest to be trained for what that will look like. So that'll be key for us. That third E is equipped. So we want you to be engaged in following Jesus, to be established, that you feel like you have a foundation and people who are with me on the journey. But honestly, both of those can feel still pretty self-focused, right? Like, it's it's important, but we may still be mostly focused on ourselves, right? Our relationship with Jesus and kind of our spiritual growth. When we get to equipped, we're starting to really deliberately think outward. Because the key to equipped is that you're not just established in faith with others, but you're equipped for ministry contribution. And so now you're shifting gears from an inward focus to more of an outward focus. I want to do a little experiment with you guys here. Okay, this should be pretty easy. You seem like a smart group. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go, and then I want you to clap and unison together. Pretty simple, right? Okay, I'm going to explain it one more time, and then we'll do it. All right, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go, and we're going to clap. If we do this right, we'll have this nice unified clap together. All right. 1, 2, 3. Go. Okay, so what just happened, right? I'm a very bad leader, right? What just happened. But visually, what we saw modeled was much more powerful than what I said, right? When we talk about these two pieces of established and of you being equipped, both of these, we need you closely connected with other people. We live in a totally individualistic society, but we never can get to the things that we value on our own most when we try to get there on our own. We want you not just in community together, but serving together. We want you modeling Christ-likeness for others and seeing that modeled. And so if you're new in following Jesus, or you're here and you have high school kids that you're wondering, how do I set them up for success best? We want so much for you to be in an environment where they're seeing an outward-focused life, but giving back that's modeled. That can be in little ways, like walking people from point A to point B on a Sunday and doing that in a welcoming way. It can be in ways as a small group member or host. You have an opportunity to help people connect the dots between what God's doing and saying in their lives and the trouble and the experience that they're having. And they in their situation don't hear what God's saying or see what he's doing, but just because of your presence, you get to help them connect those dots. I want you in that kind of relationship together. At your table, I want you to take a couple minutes. And around the table, we started this with established, this journey of following Jesus, and we're moving around. But I'm going to challenge you to give a 60-second version of what I just call your Jesus story. Okay, so you can do this in one of two ways. 60 seconds, really like a minute, all right? I'm going to time for the first few and just say go, and then next, okay? And wherever you're at, you're going to move around the table to the next person. So one of two ways. One could be how you first said yes to following Jesus. The other could just be right now, what do you feel like God's doing in your life, okay? So giving you a minute to think about it, all right? Your extreme extrovert could go first. So be ready if you know you're that extroverted person. Help your table out and offer to go first. All right, so 60 seconds, and then we're going to move around the table. Your Jesus story. Ready, set, go. Yeah, it's challenging, right? For some of you, you probably just got rolling and we cut you off. But this is why we do small groups and not just meet on Sundays and sit in rows, because you need people to talk with and unpack things with. So at the core of this, when we are looking at you becoming equipped, that you're giving in contribution to each other, small groups actually play a really important part of that as well. Because here's what will happen. In the average small group, let's say there's 10 or 12 people in a group that's meeting in a home, there's different gift mixes that are required out of that, right? So somebody's the snack person, like they're going to bring food and show their hospitality that way. Someone else is opening up their home and taking time to prepare that. There's a leadership gift that's needed to guide conversations and help point people in the right direction, so that it's not just a hangout time, but that it's a time with a purpose and with a direction. There are people that you're going to maybe experience or have experienced the way that the Holy Spirit works and gifts you in small group settings in a way that you never did before, because you have those moments where like someone's saying something, but like on your heart, it's just weighing in a direction where you can't really explain why, but you know I need to ask a follow-up question to that and push on that a little bit more, or I need to be praying for that person during the week, and you experience like insight and God's gifts working in and through you, because you're actually connected to other people who he's trying to grow and develop, and surprise, surprise, he's put you in their life and you're now the avenue that he's doing that through. So small groups becomes a key to this equipping place that you're using what God's made you good at for the benefit of others. And then the other really key ways are ministry teams that serve on what happens on Sundays in our kids' rooms, Sunday nights in student rooms, as well as other ways that won't even be on this campus. But the key teams that we are recruiting you and going to be building before we launch Harvest are accessible on the website. You can see those, but they're teams like our guest services team that is going to help people all the way from parking through what happens in the room and passing things around and helping new families find classrooms and getting kids checked in through our kids' environments, where what we want is that the best hour of any kid's week is Sunday, and that they're begging their parents to get out of the house on time because they love showing up to church. And it's in small settings, and being a small group leader with students and meeting with middle schoolers and high schoolers and getting to know not just them, but their parents, so that you can partner with them in their own journey in knowing and following Jesus. And it's all over the place. You become equipped by getting in the midst of it and allowing us to help work alongside of you and your team leader to train you and work with you. But we don't just learn like in a classroom setting in our relationship with Jesus, but we have to get in the midst of ministry and realize that God's actually made us really good at some things and really bad at others, but really good at some things that he can work with us. We want that for you. And that last piece around the circle is that we want you not just to be established, like to have that foundation, but to move past that to be equipped, but really to be empowered. And empowered is a totally an outward focus side of things, where now you're helping other people get into the circle. Okay, so you're helping connect other people that are not presently engaged with Jesus to become engaged with Jesus. And so this is where what happens on Sundays and what happens everywhere else comes together in this model, right? What happens on Sundays, we know there's something powerful about people showing up here and meeting Jesus here and what happens, but we also know that that's only a piece of the puzzle of how God's helping people meet Jesus, that people where you work and where you live and where your kids play sports and where you take a DMV class because you got a driving ticket or wherever you are, that there are people there that don't know Jesus that need to. And so God uses you. And so you get to invest in the lives of people. And maybe just have some God conversations in the midst of wherever you're at about, like what you just did, a 60-second thing about something, maybe just something that God really did in your life that you're just excited about. You get to share Jesus with people where they are, and you get to leverage what happens on Sundays and invite people to be part of this, because this time that we have on a Sunday morning really will be important as well. So that outward focus of an empowerment, we will do some different things to help spur that in you. Some of these are like works in progress. When we think that empowering in that loop, there's some things we're really praying and wrestling through with. How do we create opportunities in our community, and how do we partner with what is already here, where people are already at, so we can build bridges in like the schools that are right around this campus. What would that look like for us to help meet some practical needs? I love the activity Lee had us all do last week. You guys wrote first some needs that you think exist in Lake Nona and in the area, and then some opportunities that really presents for us. One of the common threads, almost every table, was that opportunities for young families, like something sports related or something in schools, but that you caught on this thread that most people, it seems like, financially they're like doing okay, and this is not, that didn't seem to be the biggest need that was at the top of your list that you identified, but it was those relational needs that everybody's from somewhere else, nobody knows anybody, and they're really looking for community. And so how do we partner with that? So we want you to be empowered to be that church, that you're the people that's helping people know and follow Jesus. It's our mission every bit as much as it's your mission as well. So a couple things that is going to look like. For us, I mentioned in the works, we're looking for opportunities. How do we partner with schools in our area, and what would that look like? There's also things that will develop as you're moving in your own journey and following Jesus, and you move from serving on a team to helping lead something. We're going to coach you and walk alongside of you and encourage those things. For those of you that are going to say yes to leading a small group, for example, Scott's going to he's going to help us equip you so that you feel empowered as a group leader, that we're not going to ask you just to say yes to leading a group and then we put your address on the website and let people show up at your house, but there'll be like a step in between where he's going to talk you through some ways that leading a small group really can work well, and some things that you're going to learn from him. If you're serving in our kids ministry, similarly, we're going to help you, not just stick you in a classroom and send kids your way. We're going to walk you through the process of what we want you to do from beginning to end and help empower you in that way. I want you, one final question to ask around your table, just in your own life. Where have you seen God use you to impact others the most? Where have you seen God use you to impact others the most? It might be a kind of person that you really feel like he uses you the most with. It might be a type of thing that you do. Could be something else. But in your table, if you feel comfortable sharing, take a few minutes around your tables and answer that question. Where do you feel like you've seen God use you to impact others the most? All right. So on this final part of the circle, it's really not a final part. I hope that you've picked that up, right? Like a circle keeps going. And so we want you, though, to be in a place where in your own journey you're helping other people get into this circle. And so that's the key of empowered, is that not that you feel perfect, that you have it all together, that you have answers to all of the questions that people are going to ask you, but that you can honestly say that your life is in a direction that's leaning toward helping other people get connected and grow, and that on a good day, that you feel like you spend more of your time on others than on yourself, and we're all works in progress in there. And maybe one of the healthier ways for you to think through this grid is not like where are you at on this journey, like you can peg yourself in one spot, but where do you kind of hang out at the most, if you're honest with yourself? Like at this stage of life and all that's been going on, sober-mindedly, where do you kind of hang out at the most? And there's not really like a right or wrong answer, there's a correct answer. Does that make sense? There's probably a more accurate answer for you, but it doesn't need to feel right or wrong, but where are you just honestly at the most? Are you at a season where kind of what you need a lot is to become more established? Like you're here and you're excited, but you're learning a lot, and you know that you don't know a lot, and that's sort of where you're hanging out at. Are you at a place where you feel like I'm at that equip part? Like I love giving back, and I figured out some of those things that God's made me best at in serving. That last question, you maybe had a natural thought or answer or two that just kind of by God's grace and through some time, you've realized there are some ways that He really has made me both good at and passionate about. An opportunity to connect with a couple here that for them that's marriage ministry stuff, and like being able to think about how couples entering into marriage as well as couples who are already married can be on a good journey of growth together. And so that's something they've done a lot, but that's something at this stage of life they just realize they love, and they're fruitful in it. Like when they meet with couples leave feeling better off and more equipped than they got there before. They see God using them that way. So we want this for you, this process that you keep going and going through it. And there's ways, again, at the church, we're not doing this for you, but we're a partner with you to help you do this. And so this does inform what we want to do with the programs that we will have and focus in on here at Harvest. But it might be helpful to take a little time and just answer questions. I know we scratched at some of the specifics, but we may not have gotten close to the thing that you really have a question about. So let's open it up. What would you like to know more about, or what questions do you have about this process? And that's a real, actual question you can ask. Sorry, that's not a table question. So, but ask me, or Lee, what haven't we answered that you'd like to know more about? So Philip, this is just a ask question. Yes, thank you. All right. It felt like a table question. Yes?
When are you starting the community groups?
Good question. When are we starting those community groups? The plan right now, I'm going to say a date between the two of us. Hopefully we have this. August 16th, does that sound right? That's a Sunday night? I can't remember my kids' birthdays, but that number's sitting in my head. So, good luck. Yeah, you can talk to Bethany about that. That's a real problem. So August 16th. So some of you have already expressed an interest in hosting or leading a group. If you didn't tell us that, but you are interested in, when I say hosting, I mean like opening up your home and having people meet there for a group, or leading, like being that facilitator, but you just never told us. Scott, will you wave from where we're at?
The 12th or the 19th, by the way.
12th or the 19th are the two options? Yeah, see, there you go. I have no calendar in my head. Let's go with the 19th, because 6 and 9 look close. I think that's what we meant. So the goal would be to start there. So then, like Lee's going to be teaching, we'll actually have a conversation in groups on applying that, starting from that point onward. So good question. A connected question might be, what if I've never led a group before, but I might be interested? Should I try?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Perfect. We really will, our hope would be to stack some of those small groups with, like, I feel pretty comfortable already, and someone who's I think I might maybe be okay at that. Let's give it a try. And then hopefully by the end of a little time together, you go, there's a lot of new people showing up at church here, and they need to get in a group, and I'm ready. I'll lead a group. What other questions would you have? Yes. Do we have we're saying list of those groups yet? No, but we will by the 12th or the 19th or the 16th. Somewhere in that stretch of time. But we do have a list of interested people. To be honest, we're still going to vet you a little bit. Like, does this seem like it's a wise choice for you? We're not looking for perfection, but just like, does it seem smart that this is the next thing that you do? So that will be finalized by one of those dates right in that window. I think it's the 19th was our goal. Good question. But we do want all over the place, right? So I do know from interested people, there's some from 45 minutes south-ish in St. Cloud to north of us a bit, and so that would be awesome if that happens that way. One or two more?
Baby's crying.
All right. Well, Lee, come on back.